Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen, Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily market update with yours truly. If you are new around here, do consider becoming a subscriber because this is the place to be if you want to stay up to date with the latest and greatest things happening with the crypto space, but also the broader markets. And as always, we've got a hell of a lot to get into. We're going to be kicking things off with some sort of macro news. The tariff situation is far from over, but last week we did see some kind of at least temporary resolution to it. Now, the markets were pricing in literal implementation of what was set out on Liberation Day and escalation. And we kind of got the alternative outcome. And actually, I think the alternative of a dialogue being opened up and potentially a race to the bottom for tariffs is now becoming more likely. And remember, the markets are priced in the worst. They're getting somewhere in the middle. That's why we're seeing this sort of repricing from a stock point of view across the board. And I think this is truly going to be a great week. And we'll talk about that. We're also going to look at a kind of crypto-specific event that took place yesterday that would have had cascading regards to liquidations. It's why the crypto space was down sort of last night. And it has everything to do with Mantra and the ONDO token. We're going to be diving into this, putting it into perspective and perhaps offering some condolences, or I don't know what the right word would be, for ARM and Mantra holders. Okay, this is a nasty event, but it's not over for you guys. Then we'll look at the Bitcoin price action, and also we'll be introducing some of those falling wedges that we've got across the board on Bitcoin, on crypto stocks. Couple that with the kind of U-turn that we saw last week in regards to tariffs. U-turn is definitely not the correct terminology, but kind of leeway that was given on tariffs. I think we've got a great week and few weeks and months ahead of us for the cryptocurrency space. Then we'll look at CoinShares digital asset report. So strap yourselves in, guys. Let's kick things off with a little bit of macro-y stuff. Here's some of the news that we're getting. European stocks pop 2% as Trump's tariff exemption boosts sentiment. And we've used this as a bullish indicator that essentially sentiment being at the lows that it's at is a good thing for me personally as a contrarian. I don't want everybody being bullish. Markets don't top on depression or max uncertainty. They top on euphoria. And we're miles away from that yet. And I still think there's a great time ahead for the markets, despite everything. And we continue to say that, and we're getting more validation as we go on. But the European stock market seems to be somewhat recovering. This is the S&P 500 futures, so the E-minis futures. This is up today. I think you're going to have a great day in the cryptocurrency space, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Just to show you the DAX in regards to, a European stock market. This doesn't look too bad at all, does it? It certainly initially did. Now, this made our big target, by the way, and sold off quite perfectly. But I think your DAX is, we could be on the road to recovery. There's been a lot of the last week's candles that we had for most major indexes was larger than the initial downside candles that we got. And that says a lot. And we also know, if you listen to the likes of Eric Balanchunas and others, that there was a large reallocation by what has to be institutions because of the volume of money that took place on Friday last week. In fact, it broke all records. So I think there's a number of things going on. The tariff situation is far from over. We're getting news that China halts rare earth exports to US, impacts industry. This is not an over situation, but what you had was the market's pricing the worst, and now they're getting somewhere in the middle. So they'll be reallocating as a result of that, and then day by day, week by week, we're going to get news and clarity on all of this. And we're still very optimistic. We've always said that, actually, and I'm not for tariffs as a libertarian, I'm a free market guy, but tariffs could, and Nirvana's not for this world, we don't live in a perfect world, but tariffs could actually result in lower tariffs across the board. And I think we might actually see that, and thus, sort of economic growth as a result of it. So the S&P obviously hasn't opened yet. My inkling is that it's going to. Just to show you, this was the downside candle that we had, 10%. The upside candle that we had was 13%. And we saw huge reallocations take place over last week, and we're seeing a lot of setups on the cryptocurrency space, like this falling wedge on Bitcoin. It's on Coinbase, it's on MicroStrategy, it's on many altcoins out there that I think is going to lead us to a great week ahead of us. So there's some things happening on the macro that correspond with smaller daily timeframes on the crypto charts. Let's talk about a crypto-specific event that took place yesterday. Now, this is the ONDO token, Mantra. If anybody's unfamiliar, this is a real-world asset token. This candle at its kind of height was down, or the daily movements that we saw, the daily candle for yesterday being a Sunday was 93%. Now, I want to offer some condolences to ARM token holders and actually put things in a little bit more perspective. because despite this 90% reduction from 2024 to now, ARM is still up over 30x. So I know everyone's getting a lot of a clowning in regards to ARM. And it does appear that there's some internal issues. And it's also a great reminder for us, like I'm not involved in ARM, but it's a great reminder for us that these things can happen in the cryptocurrency space. And to go back to that Warren Buffett analogy, you only swing when you think it's going to be a home run. But this is a great reminder, and I do think people should put a bit more context in this. This could just be a retest of your all-time highs that you broke, not that long ago, and perhaps this recovers. But there has been news in regards to all of this. You'd have noticed the cryptocurrency space was down yesterday slightly. It would have had everything to do with this, and probably a cascade in regards to liquidations and there being collateral across the board. But this is from JP Mullen. Sherpas, Omis, and the broader crypto community. Interesting. First off, the team and I greatly appreciate the support that we have received over the past several hours, which we believe is a testament to the strong support Mantra has amongst its investors and community. We have determined that the ARM market movements were triggered by reckless forced closure initiated by centralized exchanges on ARM account holders. The timing of the depth of the crash suggests that a very sudden closure of account positions was initiated without sufficient warning or notice. That this happened during low liquid hours on a Sunday evening UTC, early morning Asia time, points to a degree of negligence at best or possibly intentional market positioning taken by centralized exchanges. This is interesting. Centralized exchange partners play an important role in providing liquidity to projects like ours. We work closely with them. However, they continue to exercise enormously high levels of discretion when discretionary powers are exercised without due internal or external oversight. Dislocation, like what recently happened, can and will occur, hurting both projects and investors alike. To be clear, this dislocation was not caused by the team, because there was a lot of rumors that the team were actually dumping on their holders. The Mantra Chain Association, its core advisors, all Mantra's investors selling tokens. Tokens remain locked and subject to the published vesting period. ARM's tokenomics remain intact, as shared last week in our latest token report. Our token wallet addresses are online and visible. Mantra is a project that has survived and operated throughout multiple market cycles. When others stopped building, we kept going. This is no exception. As our recent suite of announcements indicates, from being the first DeFi lending protocol to be licensed by Dubai's VARA, to integrations and initiatives that will broaden and strengthen our ecosystem, we're committed to our community and here for the long term. In the coming hours, we will host Community Connect on X to discuss these events further. Please do not click on any scam links or accounts pretending to be affiliates of Mantra. All official communications will only come from my personal account or the Mantra X account. So I do, my condolences if you were caught up in this and you've lost 90% of your value. This is crypto. It's very much still like the Wild West. But it seems like this was or they're certainly blaming centralized exchanges and potentially citing manipulation, insider trading, and a number of other things. I mean, there's never a dull moment in the cryptocurrency space. We wanted to cover that. That certainly had an effect on Bitcoin's price yesterday, albeit subtly, and you guys will know the plan as far as I'm concerned. I think that this is a pretty nice falling wedge on Bitcoin. It puts it as a great reversal pattern for this pullback that is just a continuation pattern what is a broader trend. And we didn't just look at Bitcoin and its kind of falling wedge. If you look at MicroStrategy, and I think all of these are going to play out. We're bullish. You can make money on this, by the way. Not suggesting anybody trades. We might actually put a few on just to lead by example. I'm not a trader, though. I'm a net accumulator of cryptocurrencies that I think are going to fundamentally change the world. But you've got MicroStrategy showing a similar sign. I'm sure Coinbase Has a really steep falling wedge on it. Yep. Can you see this? That these are all going to break out from. And there's 1,000,001 altcoins out there that all have this going on. Algorand. Link. HBAR. I could literally go on and on and on and on and on. I think we're going to have a great week ahead of us. No guarantees on that, but I think given the kind of turn that we saw in regards to last week with the 90-day tariff relief, I think that other than it giving 90 days of breathing room, it also shows a willingness for the US to sort of work with countries around the world. And we know there's 130 countries, 135 countries that have actually got in touch with the US to try and negotiate. So scenario 2 is looking a lot more likely. And then when you look technically at the charts, I think we're off to the races, guys, in the next coming weeks. I think this week you're going to start to see things. There's likely going to be fundamental news coming out. As always, we like to check on CoinShares Digital Asset Fund Flow Report. This is disappointing. Despite seeing a record week last week for inflows in regards to ETFs, certainly around the indexes, the US indexes, we actually saw 795 million in outflows. Digital asset investment products saw 795 million in outflows last week, marking a third consecutive week of declines and bringing total outflows since February to 7.2 billion, nearly wiping out the year-to-date inflows. Bitcoin led the outflows with 751 million, despite maintaining year-to-date inflows of 545 million. Ethereum followed with 37.6 million in outflows. Select altcoin buckets buck the trend, with XRP leading inflows at 3.5 million, followed by smaller gains in ONDO, Algorand, and AVAX. That's really it from me, guys. I think we've got a great week ahead of us. I'll see you all in the next daily market update and evening video. And on that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you soon.